with Mark Ross, who's the Managing Director of Redbrik Estate Agents. Mark, what's the current state of the property market as you guys one of the first people to open back up from a long list of companies?
Yeah, it's been quite a roller coaster over the last 8-9 weeks, Richard. But yeah, we opened for business probably fully from sort of Monday of this week onwards. We've been open throughout the restrictive periods to serve the clients as where needed, but obviously following government guidelines, we haven't been able to facilitate any appointments, which we're now working through. And the interest in the housing market in the UK never ceases to amaze us, and certainly we're very busy at the moment. We're working through just over 600 viewing requests that we've got to get through. I think we've booked about 450 of those viewings already. But yeah, the market has certainly kicked off with a bit of a bang.
Just talk us through the last couple of months, really, because I think it's quite interesting how different businesses have been affected in different ways. So from the lockdown, as people call it, what happened with Redbrik and what's been the process over the last couple of months?
It started out, and it has been an evolving process, but it started out quite fearfully because the lockdown happened as our market traditionally, with it still being quite seasonal, was about to gear up. So from that side of things, it was a little bit worrying because of the amount of opportunities that we potentially miss out on. But we came into the lockdown period with a fantastic start to the year. Every single metric that we would look at was up: viewings, instructions, sales agreed, all of those things. So we came in with a really strong positive vibe from the UK economy. The money supply was there. There was lending there, and so when literally the tap got turned off, it just stopped overnight. We were able to facilitate during lockdown for those people that could do so safely and where it was of real need, a number of moves going through, but we're talking a handful, and they were a mixture of sales and lettings. And what we did is we kept everybody fully updated throughout the process, and we progressed as many of the transactions as we could with the lawyers that were working and the financial advisors that were still working, so that at the end of the restrictions and when people are safe and able to move, they were able to do so quickly and efficiently, and most importantly safely, because I think that is now the most important thing when it comes to moving house.
The announcement by the housing minister came as a bit of a shock to most people, and knowing you, I think even to you guys as well. What was kind of put into motion when that came through?
Yeah, it was. I think we'd all watched Boris's speech on a Sunday night. I'm not quite sure announcing anything on a Sunday night is ever a good idea, just for future reference, Boris. And certainly saying that we weren't then opening on the Sunday night. We were fully expecting to actually open around the 1st of June. That was our expectation throughout the process, actually. And we'd done all our budgets and all our expectations to that. That was then confirmed on Monday, reaffirmed on Tuesday, triple affirmed on Tuesday afternoon, and early Tuesday evening, as I was setting off for a walk with my children for our daily exercise, got a call to say, "Have you seen the news? We're open tomorrow." I was like, "What?" So that was a rather surprise, because we have an online portal where our clients can see everything that's happening, and obviously they've seen the pent-up demand and the viewing requests building up and people really wanting to get moving. So as you can imagine, from Wednesday onwards, people were just wanting that to happen. But getting mobile that quickly when you've got an awful lot of staff that haven't been at work for a long time, that are furloughed, and actually are really struggling to get back into the workplace because the schools aren't open. They haven't got the same childcare arrangements as before, perhaps with grandparents or other methods that they might have got employed with friends or family members. So it's been a real challenge, and at times it's looked a little bit like a patchwork quilt in terms of making sure we've got everything covered, but we have been able to do it. People are being very patient and understanding of the situation, because not only have we got to organise those viewings, but we've got to do so and facilitate them in a really safe environment. So making sure we've got all the relevant and appropriate PPE. And we're really embracing, we've always been quite technologically forward thinking, we believe, and we've had the Matterport 3D walkthrough tours before that. And we're really embracing that technology. So our 3D tours throughout the lockdown period were up 1,000% in terms of viewing. So again, we know that people love their property in the UK, and they really are excited about the moving process. And I think what we're excited about going forward is probably travel is off the agenda for most people for the next 6-9 months. But what people will look to do is to invest in their homes, whether that be their existing one or whether that be through moving. And we're certainly seeing that with the level of inquiries.
When you're showing people around properties and people are getting their properties viewed, what are the steps that you were having to take, and also that the people that are selling the house and those that are looking at the houses having to take?
Yeah, I mean, we're very much putting safety first in this, and the steps that we're putting into place are multiple. Traditionally, if we're going to do an appraisal, we'd have gone round to the client's house, spent some time with them, getting to know them, getting to understand the situation, why they're looking to move, helping them understand the value of their property in the current market. Is there anything that they can actually do to enhance that value? What marketing do we need to put in place to help them achieve the best possible price? And that would probably be done over the course of one meeting that might last anywhere from 45 minutes to 2 hours in practice. Now what we're having to do is effectively we're pre-calling all of our clients. We're getting that information done over the phone. Where possible, we're using this technology, Zoom, to get a better interaction with the clients. We're then asking the client in preparation for the appointment to open all the doors. They will then let us in. We will attend the appointment, having scrubbed up effectively, getting on the PPE that's appropriate, the mask, the gloves, making sure that we've washed all of our hands, walking around the property, having a good look. But then really facilitating the next part of the meeting on Zoom, which actually has its advantages because it often means that both parties can, if it's two parties that are looking to sell, can be there. Both might have been unavailable at the time to sit down for an hour and a half, whereas now we're facilitating that out of normal working hours, whatever they now are. I know my working hours seem to extend a lot longer these days, but very much about making sure that people are safe first and foremost, and then getting a really great experience through products like Zoom. There are obviously other ones, Google Hangouts and MS Teams. And we think Zoom works really well because we can share with people how we're going to facilitate the viewings, the next stage, and the marketing. We can do things like sharing the screen. And the viewings is really interesting because we've long been an advocate of our 3D walkthrough technology that we love, and we've seen a real increase, as I mentioned earlier, on people using that. But now people are able to really pre-screen the properties. So from a buying or a tenant's perspective, they're really able to get a great feel for the property before they go. So we're only showing around those that are most qualified, that are most likely to be looking to buy. There's very specific government guidance on how to do the viewings. Really not more than 15 minutes is their recommendation, no more than 2 people viewing a property. Unfortunately, we're not able to facilitate children or pets. Yes, some people do like to bring their pets to some viewings to see whether their cats and dogs will like the property, believe it or not, but they are now forbidden. So it's very much handling that in a safe environment, and our staff have all been trained on how to do that, and obviously wearing the appropriate PPE as well.
What kind of reaction have you had from people getting in touch? I assume that it's probably split very much down the lines of how the public are at the moment. Some people can't wait to get back out there, can't wait to start doing business and trading and buying or selling properties. And I imagine there'll be another section of the community that are quite nervous about stuff, whether it's from the safety aspect or just from the market, reading in the media various things and putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with their own different answers. How do you approach probably both sides of that argument when you're speaking to people?
Absolutely, yeah. We're finding there's people in different camps, and I think it's just reacting to people's individual needs. And we're very much here. We've always been facilitators. We want to help people move home if that's what they want to do. And there's an awful lot of people that need to move home, that want to move home. And as I said earlier, I think that it's something that's in the British psyche. They love their properties, and I think this environment of spending more time in your home has made people realise that they might want to change it. So that might be, as I said, home improvements, or in more often than not, actually moving home themselves. So when it comes to the people that we've been speaking to, generally, they've been really understanding, really patient, very aware of the situation, albeit we have had a couple of people that have really couldn't understand why we couldn't show people around during lockdown, which was quite interesting. But yeah, we've had to really explain a new way of working and making sure that people are educated as best they can in terms of that moving process. And generally speaking, I think if those people are really nervous, they're probably not going to be moving home at this period of time anyway. The ones that are perhaps more comfortable with the scenario, they're the ones that we're dealing with. But for those that aren't, we can work with them, and we're able to facilitate that. The economic thing is slightly different. And I have to say, I'm not watching the news too much at the moment, other than for 10 minutes of the day getting headlines, because I find myself shouting and screaming at what I believe to be very irresponsible reporting of the actual situation. And I think with statistics, you can make a case for pretty much most things. What we see on the ground is very different to what is being reported in the media. We've had an awful lot of people questioning. We've had people, for example, that have agreed to purchase a property, have come back and tried to renegotiate the price because they feel that that's what they should do because of what media speculation has been. One instance just yesterday, unfortunately, a client came back and did that. They tried to renegotiate their offer by taking 10% off. The client decided to put it back on the market. We had 3 other people that we knew that would probably want to buy it. We re-agreed it for the exact same price. The person that had lost out on that transaction now then suddenly came back in and going, oh no, I still want to buy it. I've spent £1,000 on my legals and my surveyors and various other things, but they didn't realise that perhaps the market is as strong as it was because they're listening to the media. We operate across Southwest Sheffield and Northeast Derbyshire, and I think anyone that looks back historically, even when 2008, and this isn't 2008, this isn't a market crash, this is an enforced stop on the market that will be like, in our view, will be very much like a V bounce back, and we will actually not see too much of a reduction over the year, because actually the increased activity that we're predicting for quarter 3 and 4 will probably equal out the loss of what we've had already. But I think it's very important that people get a real understanding of what it means to them. We're asking everybody to take a view of, well, where will you be in 5 or 6 months? This is a very short-term thing. Yes, we might be living with COVID or the reaction to COVID for 18 months or more until we get a real vaccine. But we haven't seen any country in the world yet have a second spike, which is very encouraging. And I think that we have become much more responsible as a nation in terms of how we act and how we responsibly look after each other in terms of trying not to pass the virus on. I think if we're able to do that, we will see a return to normal life quicker. When we're talking about house prices, and the UK economy is effectively built on how people feel about the wealth of their home. That is their number one asset, and people go out and spend money on how they are feeling about their property. We're seeing incredible levels of activity. As I said, we had over 600 viewings to arrange. We managed to get 450 odd of those done already. We're agreeing sales all over the place. Throughout lockdown, we had I think it ended up at about 5.6% of our pipeline, so sales being agreed, actually fell through during that 8 weeks. In a typical 8 weeks, in a normal market conditions, it would be in excess of 10%. So actually people are being very calm, relaxed, and very understanding about the situation. And certainly we're seeing lenders being responsible too. Absolutely, if you're furloughed or you're out of work, yes, you will have to be reappraised for any newer mortgage. And I think that's only fair. But anyone that's carrying on with the deal as is, there's really no change.
I was just going to say that about, obviously it has affected people across the economy, whether they've been furloughed, whether they've lost a job, sadly. So in those instances, they would have to go back through the system.
Absolutely, yeah. So if there's any material change to your income prior to completion, so as it stands at the moment, you do have to let your lender know. So anyone that's seeking a new application at the moment, if you're on furlough, and again, it comes down to individual lenders, and quote, I'm not an independent financial advisor. We leave that to the experts at people like Connect Financial Services and others. But yeah, it's always better to get that individual advice from somebody that knows. But typically speaking, if your circumstances haven't changed, there is no change. If your circumstances have, and you're looking to complete while your circumstances haven't been reinstated, then you should be letting your lender know that. If you're looking to buy now while on furloughed, you absolutely can, but the lender will only take into account, in most instances, 80% of your salary. If, however, you are on furlough during that process, then obviously you need to let the lender know, because clearly it's a material benefit to you that you will be able to potentially borrow more at a better rate. We've seen today a number of institutions start lending again at 90% loan to value. They reduced that down during furlough period, or the restrictive period, which was perfectly understandable. And now with base rate interest the lowest they've ever been, I mean, it's technical zero. Now has never been a better time to get a mortgage, because the money is in essence free, because it's going to be lower than the inflationary rate. But again, that's where we always encourage people to go and speak to independent financial advisors that really know what they're talking about and can advise individuals for their circumstances.
If the market remains as it is and nothing changes over the next few months, where do you see yourselves being in, say, September, October time?
It's a good question, Richard, and I think that it very much depends on the science that's out there, the R rate, and whether there is a potential second spike. We haven't seen that across the world, thank goodness, yet, and we certainly hope that we won't. We work with an awful lot of people to give us advice, not least the Property Academy. And we get access to all sorts of great information from behavioural economists, Bank of England reports, surveyors reports, and what people are predicting. And very much en masse, we're predicting over the next 12, 18 months a rise in property prices, somewhere circa around 5 to 6%. The simple reason for that, the money supply in the UK is there, and the interest rates are low, and people in real terms will probably wake up feeling wealthier because they haven't been able to spend the same amount of money that they have over the last 2-3 months. They will have had reimbursements for holidays. They won't have been going out to restaurants, bars. They won't have been buying as many clothes because there hasn't been the need to wear them. So they're going to wake up, and even though they might be furloughed, then they're still getting 80% of their salary. And so we've been shown an awful lot of data that really accurately predicts that house prices over the next 12 to 18 months will actually rise by around 5 to 6%. Certainly, I mentioned earlier where we work, which is Southwest Sheffield and Northeast Derbyshire. And we have always remained a very strong market, even when things haven't gone quite so well. We are not going to be touched to the same degree as some of the other regions that might be affected. If you lived in and around Gatwick or Heathrow, where the main economy is based around aviation, then yes, I can understand some local challenges in those markets. But where we sit, I don't think we're going to have those same difficulties. I think the vast majority of our employers are stable employers. We have a lot of state employment, which is obviously great in the local area. We have 2 fantastic universities. Somebody said to me the other day, the Sheffield student market's going to collapse because all online lectures will go online. And they pointed to what Cambridge announced over the weekend. And I said, yeah, but what you're talking about, what Cambridge were actually talking about was the mass lecture of 500-600 people. They're actually still going to be holding their tutorials, which is where the real work gets done, 3, 4, 5 times a week, in small sessions of 6, 8, 10, safely in big classrooms. So there's going to be very much a need for students to still come to our region and learn. And that's going to be very much, I think, the focus of the universities. Yes, this year we might not see the same levels of overseas students that we have done before. And this year might be a one-off blip. But certainly, I don't foresee any major change in the local region's economy, which obviously fuels activity.